we PubMatic believe that smart use of mobile can be a big advantage to get a basic requirement in the future. Applying machine learning at a large scale to business problems is always a big challenge. In the next session, Andrew is going to speak about how at PubMatic we've used to solve real business problems, how we've used efforts in various. Andrew has been with PubMatic since 2012, and Andrew is Vice President of Machine Learning and Marketplace. Over to Andrew for the next session.
Thanks, Travis. Sounds like listening. Okay, I'm a little tethered right now, so bear with me while I get my bearings. But yeah, so the purpose of this section is meant to tell you about many of the applications that we have at PubMatic for machine learning. These days, all companies are looking for applications of machine learning. We think we're very fortunate in that our business is very conducive for a lot of the powers that machine learning allows us to unlock. So why do I like machine learning? I like machine learning because it's logic-based, it involves problem solving, and it has huge financial impact. So that helps me get a lot of job satisfaction. So the way I'll kind of approach this presentation is because I'm sure we have a variety of different levels of exposure to both machine learning and to ad tech, which is the industry in which PubMatic participates. I'll start off at the baseline, explain what's happening within ad tech. That should set us up to give a view into the types of problems that we have to solve. But then at the end, we'll get into specific problem areas and how we've gone about exploring them with the use of them. All right, so as I mentioned, industry context. This is generally about advertising. The next one down, so we're going to double click into the specific area of ad tech that PubMatic sits at, which is real-time bidding. So this is like a buzzword you'll hear within the business. And then we'll talk about how machine learning at PubMatic works, and then the specific use cases there within. Okay, so industry context. Advertising is pretty simple if you think about it. All starts with the advertiser, so any business that wants to get their name out, and they are trying to meet some kind of goal, some sales goal. So I want to sell twice as much as I did last year. So how do I do that? Put my name on a billboard, buy some ads online, so on and so forth. Think of these as campaign goals. Then the other player that matters is the publisher. So in our case, the publisher, think about it as India Times, any newspaper that you see. This is someone who invests a lot to attract your attention, to get you to engage with their content, and thus should be rewarded for every time you do so. And the way they're rewarded is by showing you an ad and selling that. Now, how does that work online? Well, there's a bunch of intermediaries. So the first one that matters is the agency. Agencies typically work on behalf of advertisers. So this is, if anyone's familiar with the TV show Mad Men, this was, talks about a place in New York where a lot of agencies were born to help advertisers find better uses for their money. So the agency is working on behalf of the advertiser to help them reach their goals. Now, one of the places the agency can direct their money is through these online programmatic channels. And these two parties are the main constituents, which I'll speak about over the rest of the presentation. There is the demand side platform, which I may abbreviate as DSP, so apologies in advance. These guys are responsible for driving the most ROI, or return on every dollar that is invested in the advertising stream. And then there is the supply side platform. This is PubMatic. The supply side platform's main goal is to drive yield for the publisher. So what I mean by yield, for every person that visits a publisher's property, how many dollars can I make off of that person from an advertising perspective? And so these two components combined are where all the technical capabilities sit within the ad tech industry. Okay, so now let's go further into the tech component. So the advertising industry is very large. Often ad spend in general will rise and fall as GDP grows or shrinks within countries. Very tightly correlated with GDP. The exception to that is the technological advances that are growing the ad industry. And a lot of that is happening here within internet advertising. So what this shows is from the late 90s, we've experienced exponential growth within internet-enabled ads. So what this chart shows is quarterly revenue or quarterly advertiser spend from the late 90s all the way up to about $25 billion per quarter today. And so why is tech the only driver of growth within advertising? I would posit two things. One, it unlocks the scalability and the trackability that are incumbent upon advertising. And then more within that, there's a lot of broader tech trends that are helping us, tech providers within the ad industry, unlock more value for advertisers and publishers alike. Specifically, AI, ML, and big data. So RTB, what do we mean by RTB or real-time bidding? So my goal here is to give you a brief overview of how we work with DSPs, SSPs, and DSPs work together. So real-time bidding is just the mechanism or the protocol for which we can buy and sell advertising online. So advertising inventory, what we mean by that is the chance to serve you an ad when you surf somewhere online. And so we buy and sell that via auctions. And so these auctions happen instantaneously. They happen upon you approaching the page. And to make that possible, there's pretty much like 4 steps that I would summarize that are most important. One, so as you navigate to a page, the publisher helps us describe, or the publisher describes to us the user. So drop a cookie, device ID, something like that, and the context to which you're looking, to which you're going to view them. So are you on the home page, or you are checking your mail, something to that effect. We would then pass on this description to DSPs. We would help the DSP recognize the user as well. Also relay the context that's been described to us, the SSP. The DSP would then decide if it's interested in serving you an ad. If so, they would select the relevant creative to serve to you and enter a price to bid into our auction, essentially. So we would then host that auction and then maintain proper user experience at the publisher's end. So we receive a bunch of bids, can't just sit around receiving bids all day. You've got places to be. So if you want to read content, see the ad, get on with it. So we have to maintain something. So that's RTB in a nutshell. By the way, you guys should jump in with questions as you go. I like being interrupted. Okay, so briefly, how does machine learning work at PubMatic? So I think this is like a very simple component, but the way you can think about it is we invest a lot in our data. So with big data technologies, we're able to capture and process our data better every day. Now the question is, what do you do that? What do you do with that? So as Abhinav spoke about before, everything flows through the ad server here at PubMatic. This is a very important component. It's our throughput engine. And so this is the so we need to provide this throughput engine with some instructions in order to perform tasks for publishers, advertisers, users alike. So with the data, you can either, a person can infer from the data what this ad server should do. That's what I call like manual optimizations. Slightly better than that, or slightly more efficient than that, would be some kind of rule-based system. So say if this, then that. Or even best would be machine learning. And so this is kind of what we'll start exploring over the balance of the presentation, is how we can take inputs from big data and instruct that server to perform better tasks over time. So broadly speaking, there are 4 categories of ways that we deploy machine learning here at PubMatic. So the first one is something I call pipe cleansing. So as I alluded to before, RTB is this mechanism or protocol for which we interact with DSP. And so you can think of this as also a series of connections with the many DSPs out there and the many publishers that we work with. Another way of talking about these connections would be colloquially is pipes. And so the higher data fidelity you're able to preserve, the more you're able to enrich those pipes with data, and then avoid systemic errors. You can call this a clean pipe. So broadly speaking, pipe cleanliness is one. Second is traffic management. So Abhinav spoke about like the high degree of processing power that we need. A lot of the how often we get ping from our publishers, and then downstream we ping our DSPs that we spoke about before. All this adds up to a lot of servers. As Abhinav mentioned, it's all on-prem. That means we're buying and managing servers ourselves. So the smarter we can get with how we manage this traffic, you can imagine huge financial implications there within. Thirdly, bidding or auctions. So this is how we apply auction theory to our day-to-day business objectives. So how we close auctions, how we submit bids into upstream auctions has big implications to either publisher yield, advertiser ROI, and our own revenue. And then lastly, it's an area of sales enablement. So all businesses rely on some sales function in order to operate. Given that we're in a B2B business, means our customers are also businesses, we can enable both our own sales force as well as the sales forces of our customers. So this is another interesting area that we can explore. So the first area. So this is in the area of pipe cleanliness. So just a reminder, this is data fidelity, avoid systemic errors. So one interesting area that I'd like to call out is video. So one of the big growth drivers within internet advertising right now is the emergence of video ads. So I'm sure you all are watching more video online today than you were 3 years ago. And you're now seeing more ads on those videos that you're watching than you were 3 years ago as well. But there's a lot of additional complexities to serving video ads than it is just to serve a simple banner ad. And those complexities have to do with a variety of player sizes, specs of the publisher's page, so on and so forth, and the creative stuff. What ends up happening if these differentiating requirements don't line up is an error. An error basically means a lost revenue opportunity. So that means we closed an auction, we thought we picked a winner, we thought the creative was going to show on a publisher's page, but nothing happened. Therefore, the publisher made $0, the advertiser loses a chance to sell something, and we spent a lot of money on servers and sales, etc., and nothing came of it. So how do we avoid these errors? So maybe like a very simple approach to this problem would be, well, you block all creatives, then there won't be any errors, right? That doesn't make much sense. So what you're actually trying to do when you unpack the problem, you pull it back a little bit, is how do I maximize revenue? So it's not actually about reducing the errors, it's more about how do I maximize revenue given the presence of potential for errors. So now if you think about the problem from an ML standpoint, it's really a prediction model of which video creative or which video creative publisher combination is most likely to error out. Now, once you have that information, what do you do with it in order to maximize revenue best? So what we came up with is this kind of handicapped auction approach. So we still get the same bid values from our DSPs, but we shouldn't take all of them at face value. Some have much higher likelihood of being successful, and some have much worse. So a simple example off to the left, the dollar values at the top are the bids that we received from the DSP. The red box shows the calculation that we've done on each behalf. So based on the important features of each of these creatives and publisher pages, we've reduced this bid to some degree. And then the blue box represents the inferred or our true bid value that we would actually use within our option. And what you can see is this example where DSP1 bid less than DSP2 into the same option, and at face value would have lost, could end up winning and yield more for our publishers. So basically the algorithm we use here is actually a decision tree. And I kind of described a bit how it works. Cool, so next area. So another big trend within ad tech is the idea of native advertising. So I'm seeing a bunch of head nods, so I think people are familiar with native advertising, but the idea is it's a nice experience to see an ad that resembles the environment to which it's shown. So you have, as you scroll up and down on a web page, you may see ads that are misshapen or misplaced, and that's not a good experience. The more it fits within the context of the page, the more native we would call that ad. So what's the problem with it? Inherent in native advertising is the idea of a bespoke format. So we're basically saying this ad should fit the specifications of this page alone. That sounds not scalable at all to me. I would say, well, I want standard formats that can fit anywhere on the web. And so the challenge then is if people have creatives that fit the standard formats that can address 90–95% of the web out there, how can I use those same creative assets to address the 5–10% of opportunity, which relies on native advertising or bespoke formats? So the opportunity here is how can we transform those standard creative assets into something new? So the publisher's saying, like, I want the ads to fit the context of my page, and the buyer's saying, like, I don't want to do any extra work on changing creative assets that I already have, but I want to be able to fit various publisher restrictions that I may come across. And so through deep learning, we were able to segment these creatives segment the creative assets by their important features. So some of the important features listed here are by the logo, the brand statement, resolution, aspect ratio. And if you're able to retain all these things and present it in an appealing fashion, then that's a successful outcome. And so this is a pretty novel approach for bringing demand into a new area. Okay, so second category, traffic management. Remember, this is managing all the things, all the expensive things that we have to handle on a daily basis. So I heard Abhinav mention the acronym QPS, but maybe for everyone's benefit, I'll just kind of re-explain what that means. It means queries per second. So this is kind of at any point in time, how much are your servers being bombarded? So this is an important metric for everyone in the ad tech system because this is the best indicator of your costs. And the reason it's the best indicator of your costs because it's how much peak capacity you can handle at any point in time. So often we hear from our partners, these are our buyers, that we can only handle X amount of QPS from you at these data centers. And so that we have to respect that. And so how do we go about respecting that? Well, here's the opportunity for an application of ML. So simply put, like the objective I would describe as the dotted red line signifies the QPS restriction we get from one of our partners. Now, what we want to avoid is exceeding that line. I've called that flooding. We don't want to flood our partners, nor do we want to go too far below. That's then lost revenue opportunity. I've called this underserved. So given this goal, how do we shape our traffic to fit that red line as best as possible? So I've kind of described what the customer is looking for, but I haven't really described one of the challenges here. Now, what's interesting to think about is if information was perfect, if data flow was perfect, meaning like I know exactly the next impression that's coming that I'm going to serve, that I'm going to receive from this individual publisher, there's no need for machine learning. But given a delay in data, which there always is, the delay can be shrunk, then we have to do some kind of prediction. So what we've done here is we are predicting traffic patterns at the buyer level and then ranking, more importantly, ranking the traffic or quote unquote shaping the traffic to fit that individual buyer need. So we've tried a bunch of solutions here. We've netted out a custom one that's kind of based off of what we'll call like reinforcement learning principle. And that helps us both extract the most amount of, or reduce revenue loss by the greatest amount, and also maintain our respect below the flooding line. Next one within the traffic management area is this idea of bid guidance. So I've already kind of stated the premise that everybody's interested in reducing the total number of pains. Interestingly, not all pains are created equal. So some of the heaviest pains in our industry are what we call non-zero bids. So many of the things are just like, hey, I'm still alive, like keep sending me stuff. But some of the things are, I'm submitting this $7 bid, and this is the creative that I want to serve, and you can imagine that's a lot more expensive. So if you're able to reduce these bids by a little bit, that can result in an outsized amount of dollar savings. So the problem area is we receive a lot of non-zero bids that we would deem invalid. So simply, to think about it simply, is every publisher will have a price floor. So I'm not willing to sell an ad less than $2 on this page. So if I receive a bid for less than $2, I would consider that an invalid bid. And so how do we get our demand partners to not send us those bids less than $2 for? So in the absence of the publisher giving us the price floor, we can predict that price floor. And essentially, we can clear out all the bids that would come in below that price floor, which in our case was roughly 50% of the bids we were managing. So with regression tree, we're able to give suggested prices to buyers. So say you have not won on this publisher at less than X amount, so don't send us anything less than X amount in the future. And resulted in huge infrastructure savings. Third guy, yeah, what's up?
Yeah, so the question about that was it wasn't clear how ML was used to calculate for floor price.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the question is, how is machine learning used to calculate that floor price? So, right?
Yes. Or is machine learning used for floor price, or is it static?
Yes. So machine learning is used to calculate the floor price. So are you saying the floor price of the publisher?
Yes, of the publisher.
Okay, so a few parts to this question. So the first one is, the publisher has some floor price. Is machine learning used to calculate that? And then I'll extend your question. The second part is, how then does PubMatic relay that on? Is it machine learning or not? So imagine the presence of it in this deck would mean that PubMatic at least uses machine learning, right? The publishers, I would say, it's a mixed bag. Some are using machine learning, some are not. The vast majority of premium sites that you would go to do not have huge engineering departments, and therefore are probably not using machine learning to come up with these floor values. But so you can imagine there are some static values, and they may choose to share with us or not. That's kind of how they want to approach their monetization strategy. As it's, those floor values may not be universal either. So it could be a different floor value for PubMatic versus other partners it works with. It could be a different floor value for Coca-Cola or Pepsi. So there can be many different granularities of those floors. So whether the publisher uses ML or not, we have to use ML to predict, is this buyer going to win with the bid that they're presenting? And we think the best way to predict that is to look at their historical buying success and failure. Make sense?
That makes sense. Thank you.
One other question. Ask it like that.
In order to figure out this addressable opportunity, which uses you're using ML to figure out. So do you use the publishers across data to come up with this line, or it's specific to the options coming for that particular publisher?
I think the question is, do I use other publishers' data to figure out?
Your general model considers across publishers' data or the specific publishers?
Yeah, so our model has publisher as a, which means that the data that we realize on a specific publisher is then used only for that publisher. And so the kind of intuition behind that is that each publisher will have different floor value settings, and if one publisher were to increase or decrease floors, that's kind of an independent activity from another publisher.
So that means the same advertising for one publisher may go with some different bid price and other will be different price.
Correct. That means like the Hindustan Times will have a different floor value for Coca-Cola than the New York Times for Coca-Cola.
Got it.
Force publisher to put a floor price.
Yeah, so the question was, do we force publishers to set a floor price? And the answer is no. It's a monetization strategy decision. So often, setting the right floor price can result in increased yield, but there's a trade-off. And so that the trade-off comes with how many less ads are you going to sell in the presence of a floor price. So ideally, like floors are actually a pretty inefficient way of setting price, but works pretty well in an auction-based environment. So we actually have many publishers that do not set a floor price. Cool. Okay, third category. So this is bidding. So this is kind of like a hot off the press topic area. Hot off the press means like over the last few months, we've had a pretty big shift in our industry. So if you guys follow search advertising, search, like you're probably familiar with the concept of a second price auction. So in order to sell keywords, search-based keywords, they run second price auctions, and you as a bidder will only pay as much as the second highest bid in that same auction. And so that's how we grew up. We use PubMatic, we use RTV. We grew up in the second price auction world. And that's a pretty interesting dynamic because, in my view, it encourages advertiser spend to come in because you can get a pretty good deal. Like the auction theory behind it is essentially when I bid into a second price auction, I should bid how much I'm willing to pay. That's it. So if I could get $100 of value from serving this ad, then I should bid $100, and the second place bidder will determine how much I owe. And that second price will be something less than $100. So this simple graph I showed, like as bid price increases, closing price means like the price you get charged within the auction should stay the same in a second price world. That's the blue line. Now, what's happened is we've transitioned to a first price auction. Why? Probably out of scope for the purposes of this call, but interesting nonetheless. But with the first price auction, that means a different bidding strategy is required. So if I were not to do anything, meaning not change my bidding strategy at all in entering this auction, and move from a second price to a first price auction, I would lose the distance between those two lines out of my ROI. So if I were bidding $100 and getting closed at $20 in the second price auction, and I can the motivation in entering an auction changes quite a bit. And that motivation now is how little do I have to pay in order to still win that auction. Very different from how much do I value the user ad, or how much do I value the auction ad. So what that means is now PubMatic, which kind of grew up being this kind of like yield optimizing specialist, once the publishers decide they want to move to a first price auction, now a consequence of that is that buyers need to figure out how to bid. So one thing we can do is help buyers bid intelligently. That's the title of this slide, Intelligent Bidding. So as a buyer, I can help you increase your ROI by figuring out how little you have to pay. Now, I'm not saying this very simply, what's kind of like the core ML problem here? I'm trying to predict the second price in the next auction. If I can predict the second price in the next auction, I can give an advertiser how much they need to pay or how much they need to reduce the bid that they've already valued at some degree. And the way we approach this is through a multi-on bid. So multi-on bid is pretty cool. It's basically a guess and check approach, right? And so what we use, our unique advantage in this case, is that we have a data set that expands across all of our buyers, and we have preferential access into the publisher's auction. And so we can bring a very good perspective that the buyer is unable to refer on its own. And that's why we can help the buyer reduce its price and retain more ROI in this auction. Okay, next one. So lifetime value optimization. So everything we talked about right now is about how to get paid or to pay for something within a single auction. This one's interesting because this takes more of like the lifetime value of a given user. So the way to think about this is you go to your favorite website and they show you a big ad in the middle of the page. They're going to make a good amount of money on that ad that one time. Now, if that ad were to annoy you and were to prevent you from reading an article and maybe clicking into a few additional articles, that's actually quite a big loss. So now what could be considered a big gain in the short term turns into a long-term loss. So how do we do this optimization over time? And so kind of the key element is user session. So how we will measure time based on the number of sessions to which you spend navigating the web. And the core decision here is, should I show you this intrusive ad or should I show you a piece of content? And based on your preferences and your past history, are you a user that would respond well to this ad, or are you a user that would respond better seeing less ads and more content? And so this is kind of how we come up with the idea of this lifetime value optimization. So from the publisher's perspective, I am willing to forego opportunities to show you ads in exchange for the ability to show you more content and keep you as a more engaged user over your full life. So the chart off to the left, what we're trying to depict here is two types of users. One that we say like never make a distinction to show editorial content, always show ads. That's what we call the blue box, a non-optimized user. And then for the user that we do show some editorial content to, we can end up creating more page views and ultimately more ads over time by making these small choices. And so the approach here that we use is like a recommender system.
That's quite PubMatic does this because they use code on the publisher's price. How does PubMatic help from this one?
Yeah, so PubMatic, so as I mentioned, so there's the DSP and the SSP. The SSP can help generate content for the publisher and make a recommendation. What kind of asset should we show on this page? So think of us as like an agent for the publisher. Makes sense? So said differently, like ultimately you're just trying to determine the net present value of two different assets, editorial or advertising. Okay, last category, sales enablement. How are we doing on time? I think we're good there. Cool. So sales enablement. So one area here is media packaging. So in pretty much every case, there's going to be a subset of users in a subset of contexts that deliver a vast majority of the total dollars. So this kind of 80-20 rule is what you might hear more often. The shading on the chart is a little off, but there's a difference in color on the left than on the right. You'll have to trust me on that. Which is meant to show the statement that I just made. So how can we take advantage of this very common observation in the media world? There's two things. So one is creating sellable packages for publishers. So if you've ever met a publisher sales team, what they do is say like, I work for NBC in the United States, I'll go around saying, like, I have the best weather advisory system around, and you should show an ad on my weather advisory system because I reach all these users, so on and so forth. So that is not a specific ad that was sold, that is a lot of potential ads. So you can think of these lots of potential ads as a media package. So it's some description of the audience that NBC has and some description of the context in which it would be shown. So what we can do through clustering and association rules is we could say, like, these are the highest value packages that you've been selling on your site programmatically, and you should put this in the hands of your sales teams to go talk to advertisers and have them sell them. So this is one way we become kind of a strategic partner for our publishers. And then secondly, who asked the question? I think you asked the question earlier about ML-based floors. So this is also an example of where we can recommend floors for our publishers. And so here what we can say is when this kind of user comes on this kind of site, you should definitely increase that floor because they're in the highest value segment that you sell. And when these other users come, better lower your floor because nobody's willing to pay that price. Make sense? Okay, I think this is the last example that I brought today. So this one is about block list management. So block list management. This is a ad operations heavy task. So you can imagine any given publisher would be very prescriptive with which kind of ads they'd like to have run on their site. So trying to think of maybe relevant examples, but let's say like your favorite cricket team. Your favorite cricket team has some page kind of talking about their schedule and where they're playing next and so on and so forth. I'm sure they would not be so happy if their biggest competitive team, their biggest competitor, was to show an ad on their site saying, hey, buy tickets to my game. So they would want to set up some rules saying, like, this team is not allowed to show an ad on my site. Now, you can imagine the many variations of this kind of dynamic, right? What if you're a company like Amazon? So think about all the different companies that you would want to be restricted about who can show up on my site. I'll give you a hint, it's not just eBay. So what that means is you've got a lot of people running around trying to define all these rules about what can and cannot be shown on the site. So cost intensive. And so what we can do is basically like you describe broadly the people you don't want to show up on your site. Don't worry about reviewing every creative. We're going to figure out a way to classify these creatives into these categories you've defined. So whether it's categorical or by the brand name itself. And so what we can do is we can crawl the landing pages of the creative. What I mean by landing page is click on a creative that takes you to a place. That's your landing page. If we crawl that landing page and look for a few key features, like the title of the page, the body of the page, and most importantly, the copyright component at the bottom, we can figure out who the advertiser is. And so, through some simple like supervised learning, Bayesian classifier, we can create this system that allows you to tune weightings and find the right kind of like risk-reward profile to offboard a lot of the ad ops costs that you would otherwise incur. So that's it. Any questions?
Can you share some details?
Could you please share some details on what training models you used and anything specific you had to do for deployment of presented models?
Okay. So by and large, you can imagine we use mini models for every problem, and the model that's currently in deployment may not be in deployment 3 months. So I think too much specifics on any one model is not going to be super helpful. The way I think about it is we are like, the term like the invisible hand, like Adam Smith, there's like some guiding principle that like dictates these systems. For us, our North Star is performance. So there's no holy ideas, there's no holy approaches. It's if creating 6% of lift, and tomorrow you're creating 8% of lift, then whatever model works, right? So that makes the job very easy. It becomes less about evaluating the brilliance or the sophistication of an idea or elegance of an idea, and more about simply like let the numbers, pure competition. But more to your point about how to deploy the models, we have to take a lot of care in deployment, as you might expect, right? So we're in a business where we're managing hundreds of millions of dollars. So any loss of those dollars, we have a lot of angry clients on the other end, right? So sitting between the big data pipeline and the ad server, our deployment looks a little something like it. So either we will create our own pipeline, or we will have like some broader, more monolithic pipeline created on our behalf. We will then refine that data to meet the specific need of the algo itself or of the problem area that we're trying to solve. Then we have to translate that into a lightweight, consumable format that the ad server can then read. And so this is basically like JSON format, right? And then we have to test the functionality of the ad server. So is the ad server behaving as we would expect given the model outputs? And so that's kind of offline. Then we get to more like online testing or production rollout, where we go with percentages of traffic and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the general process, but our guiding light throughout all of this would be some kind of like customizable A/B framework. So we're like, based on the variety of problems you saw here, you can imagine it'd be very difficult to create some kind of generic A/B framework that can handle all cases. So we're in more of the spirit of building a specific A/B framework for a specific problem. So there you could also associate that with part of our deployment. And so then that's kind of what we're monitoring over the course of it. Any other questions?
Use any streaming machine learning techniques actually to give a feedback to the experts, like scoring or some similar frameworks.
So I think the question was, do we use any ML techniques?
Streaming machine learning techniques.
Streaming machine learning.
Open scoring, where you can actually, like if you have a decision tree, right, you can predict all streaming data.
Streaming, so define.
Real time.
Yeah. So I mean, we work in a real-time business. So all of our data can be so the data we use would have a variety of time. So essentially, we're just talking about how close to real time are we coming. So probably the best example of the need for real time data is the QPS problem. So the closer to real time this gets, the less important the ML actually is, or the lift that ML can drive approaches zero. So other examples, so video error rates. This one is less important to be real time, but more so than big guidance. So we would use like longer time frames for big guidance to get a better sense of possible bottoms of the barrel, but shorter time frames for big guidance. Native is very real time, so native rendering.
Talk a little bit more about native, but how do you do deep learning?
You know, we have a special guest in the room. Actually, the inventor of native rendering. Dinesh, they asked talk a little bit more about that innovation.
So what we do is, can you hear me? I was going to say that on that side, what we do is we look at an asset, try to identify what the core pieces are of that asset. Like, does it have a logo, does it have text? Try to keep as much information as possible out of the original image that is there, and try to condense it to the form that just put it for a particular publisher's look and feel, let's say, and the requirements the publishers have can take runtime. They can change the size of the image, they can suggest, I want logo at the top, in some cases, they want to do A/B test, this at the bottom. But essentially, what we're doing is image processing in the background to try to figure out what does the original image, what advertisement contain. Try to extract meaningful pieces of information, and like we said, extract important attributes or assets. Like what's the logo, what's the title, a brief description, a long description, what's the core part of the image, like what's the central focus area. There will be multiple focus areas, but by using a neural network, we can extract all of those core components, extract out that as metadata and store it. Then when a request comes in at runtime from a publisher, what we would do is arrange all of this metadata, arrange it as a publisher file, and then manage that request to get the other components. Aggregate all this content on the fly and then render it to the publisher website. But all the people seeing all the aggregation or extraction is happening in the background. Rendering and arrangement is happening at the
Other activities surveys activities.
no, so that's a good point. Because sometimes they may be lost not be what the marketer wanted. What we do is we kind of get approvals front, saying we can do conversion and runtime for these specific. And what we also have some preview kind of tool where the buyers can look at that tool and say, does this look good? Do these color combinations look good? To certain combinations. So we would not want to jeopardize the advertisers, brand marketing value of the body or the message important. Don't play with that unless you have a product.
You implemented anything for publisher fraud or what you are doing?
So yes, so the question was, have we implemented anything for publisher fraud to counter bot traffic? Yeah, so that's an area that I would love to invest, that I would love to work in from an intellectual curiosity standpoint, but from an incremental value add standpoint, it's actually very small. And the reason is not that it's not important. The reason is that there's so many other companies out there doing it, easy to partner. So that's an area that we partner with a lot of companies to get scores on our inventory. They have their own predictive models, and they can look across a lot of different publishers, a lot of data sets that we may not have access to, and they're pretty good at what they do.
Extreme values. How do you ignore extreme values?
Yeah, so
Like some of the events, some temporary events or some news that has broken up and it has increased your floor value or some GSP values. That machine learning should ignore those values because those are from specific event only. So do you have any specific algorithms for those?
yeah, so the way I think about that is that it's a statistics problem within each of the algorithm tests, right? Within each of the algos, we have to have some way of ignoring high variations or unexpected one-offs. And so I'd say we have to address that in a variety of different ways, whether it comes in data cleansing or whether it comes in like our behavior itself, the algorithm behavior itself. We have like a few different tactics for doing that, but it's all kind of some statistics-based approach. Okay, well, great, guys. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thanks, Andrew. Hi, everyone. Good show? Okay, I'm resigning from the global HR team, and as unique as we work, that unique is our culture. And in a unique style, we would like to say thank you to you, not by words, but with a sneak peek to our life at PubMatic, what we do at PubMatic, how we have fun at PubMatic, how we work at PubMatic. So, already? Okay, cool.
Just give us a minute, guys.
It's basically a sneak peek to all our offices, all our people, the way they come to, I mean, walking to work, coming to office, having fun, all of it. By the way, a note on the feedback. We'll be sending your feedback online and we request you to give us all your inputs on how we can make this much better, what topics you would like us to cover, and how can we collaborate more and network more with you, have more of you here longer time.